J'ouvre la séance.
I call this meeting to order. Welcome to meeting number 26 of the Standing Committee on Veterans Affairs.
2, and the motion adopted on Monday, October 3rd, 2022. The committee is resuming its study on the impact of the new rehabilitation contract awarded by the Department of Veterans Affairs on the role of the case manager and quality of service delivery. La réunion d'aujourd'hui se
Today's meeting is being held in a hybrid format in accordance with the Order of the House adopted on Thursday, 23rd of June, 2022. And I would like to share some information with our members and witnesses to ensure a smooth meeting. So if you're participating by video conference, please turn on your mic before taking the floor, and then when you're not speaking, please put it on mute. And when it comes to interpretation, you have the choice between English and French, or you can choose the floor as well. And I would like to also remind you that all remarks by members and witnesses should be addressed to the chair. In accordance with our routine motion regarding connection tests, I would like to inform the committee that connection tests have been carried out before the meeting. We will have a second panel, of course.
Welcome our witnesses. D'abord, nous avons Mrs.
First of all, we have Ms. Angela Altman.
Local Union 90002, Union of Veterans Affairs Employees. Amanda Logan, Case Manager and President, Local Union 60006, Union of Veterans Affairs Employees. And Whitney McSheffrey, Case Manager, Union of Veterans Affairs Employees. You're going to have 5 minutes for you. Yes?
Point of order?
Yes, Mr. Richards.
Yeah, just briefly, and I don't want to take away time from our witnesses. I think it's very important we hear from them, and I just wanted to make a quick comment as a point of order this morning. We had received an amended notice for this meeting indicating committee business time at the last 15 minutes during the time when we would have, when we do have veterans, and I guess it's been changed now. There's only one veteran, but we did have veterans scheduled, and I think it's concerning to me that any time we have, particularly when it's veterans, but really when we have witnesses scheduled, there's a very short period of time they're given to schedule that kind of committee business situation and cut into their time is something that I think should only be done where it's absolutely necessary. And I would just ask that you as chair commit that in the future, before making such a decision, to have a conversation with, at the minimum, the vice chairs of the committee and ideally the members of the steering committee to determine whether that is, in fact, a reasonable incursion on witness time. And so I'll just ask if you could commit in the future that those conversations would occur prior to cutting into witness time.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Richards. So I understand your concerns. And as you know, it's extremely important for us and I think for all members of the committee to work for the veterans, to listen to veterans. And at the same time, I have to tell you that you have elected a chair and I have also a clerk working with us. So we are doing everything that we can to have that committee functioning correctly. And so that's why, sometimes it's happened like in this situation. Right now we have 1 hour with 3 witnesses when we were supposed to have 2 witnesses for the second hour. And the clerk deals, like I can say, every day with those witnesses. And one of them, at the last time, she said, no, she's sick, she can't be present. And even though this morning she get contact with her again, and she said, no, I'm not available. And the other one, it was a lot of discussion, and we are pleased. At the end, he said, well, I'm going to buy a headset, and I'm going to be able to participate. So it's been that I saw that we have 1 hour with one veteran, one witness. So that's why, and we also have how do we say that? This is our last meeting on that study, so we have to give instruction to the analysts to do the report, and it has to be in camera. And we also have ce qu'on appelle les crédits budgétaires to discuss.
We also have the expense budget.
So that's why the chair, and in discussion with the clerk, we come up to that conclusion. And it was, even though I thought it was during the weekend, we discussed that. So I don't think you have to be confident to the chair to with the schedule. So that's why in half an hour, 16 minutes, I can send an email or the clerk to discuss
Point of order, Mr.
something.
Chair, as well.
Yes, Mr. Rogers.
We do have a vote scheduled for 1, and we need 15 minutes to get back to our offices in order to do that, or to Parliament. So, what we see here scheduled, obviously, we need a 15-minute finishing early before 1 to be able to vote.
Yes, Mr. Rogers, this, I think that we can deal with that in the second hour because the vote is around 1 o'clock. So we have to have a unanimous decision on that what we're going to do, about the vote. So we're ready to go? Yes, any other intervention? Yes.
Yeah, just quickly as a follow-up, Mr. Chair, I appreciate. I've been in your position. I've chaired committees in the past myself. I understand the what you're dealing with, and there's moving parts, and I know that the decisions have to be made. I just am indicating to you that I think, as chair, what would be helpful in situations like that is to have a communication with, at minimum, the vice chairs and ideally the members of the steering committee, at least, just so we're aware of what is going on, and perhaps there can be alternative ways of dealing with things, so we don't cut into witness times. My estimation, in this situation, for example, we do have an in-camera meeting to deal with a report on the 28th, which is a week from today. Certainly, we could have probably added those items to that agenda. That would have been a suggestion to deal with that. So I'm just saying that in the future, I would just ask that you commit to having a conversation with your colleagues prior to making decisions like that. That's all I'm asking.
Great, I understand that. And as you can see, the clerk has already taken action on that. Like this morning, they sent an email to you explaining why we're going to have only one witness for the second hour. So let's have that. Oui, Monsieur Desilets.
Yes, Mr. Desilets. I fully agree with my colleague. We have to do everything possible not to take away time from our witnesses. In the current case, we had the information before, I think, that the schedule would be modified, but we found out after that we would be missing a witness, right? Is that how it took place? Okay, I just wanted to confirm. I fully understand, and it is true that we informed you about the schedule change first, but then we had an email exchange and a discussion that took place. So the clerk and myself, we said it is important to inform you. At the same time, if you don't have the time to reach out to the vice chairs, and that's what the clerk did by sending out that email to explain to you the situation. But rest assured that communication will be better among us to make sure that the committee takes place in a flawless manner. So on that note, members, ladies and gentlemen, we'll continue. So I would like to invite, I don't know if it's Miss Logan who will be going first and taking the first five minutes.
5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
Hi,
Mrs.
I'll be starting.
McFree.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, Committee, thank you for inviting me here today to speak about this important issue impacting our Canadian veterans. I began my career at VAC 6.5 years ago with the belief that I would be able to positively contribute and enhance.
It's a little bit. Yes, please. Yes, okay.
Sorry. With the belief that I would be able to positively contribute and enhance the livelihoods and well-being of our Canadian veterans and their families. This position was a perfect fit considering my education as a social worker, as well as being the daughter of a veteran, having experienced my father being deployed in the struggles we faced as a family upon his retirement. 4 years later, my older brother would deploy to Afghanistan, again in 2012, and most recently to Latvia. I'm also the spouse of a U.S. Army veteran of the 101st Airborne who deployed to the early invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq and was injured in his last tour. I have personally witnessed how war changes our loved ones. The lives of military families and military culture is all too familiar, and one that I am extremely proud to be a part of. But for many civilians, there exists an ignorance as to what the reality is truly like, reestablishing in civilian life after these experiences. Veterans' physical and mental health issues are often complex and multi-layered. Operational stress injuries, moral injury, chronic pain, and psychosocial issues are just the tip of the iceberg. My great concern with this rehab contract is that privatizing these services will only serve to further isolate our veterans from their government, their community, and from the public service employees who have their best interest at heart, rather than a bottom line, a policy, or a profit. Our veterans already face difficulties trying to relate to others who do not understand their experiences and the residual impacts it has on their social integration, emotional support, self-esteem, identity, sense of coherence, and trust. This contract will undoubtedly exacerbate these psychosocial challenges. I cannot explain to you the helplessness that I feel when my veterans ask me what this contract means for them and their reestablishment. I am unable to provide them the assurance or the comfort when I myself am faced with so many unknowns about what my work will look like and how much control I will have in ensuring they get what they need. I cannot ensure that they won't have to build trust with yet another stranger, expose their vulnerabilities, and retell the darkness that they are living in. I fear that for a long time, the department's expectations of case managers is simply to placate and manage veterans' anger and frustration. As a social worker as well as a public servant, I have the responsibility and an ethical obligation to respect the dignity and worth of the person, uphold integrity, and advocate for the importance of human relationships and social justice. The uncertainty of this contract prevents me from espousing these values and ethics to the point that this year I chose not to keep my social work registration as I felt I was unable to uphold these values and ethics within my workplace. I'm left with the feeling that the department is using this contract to further distance themselves from the veterans and their families, and that it serves to abdicate their responsibility to uphold their very mission, mandate, and values by minimizing the relationship with their case manager. Since March of 2020, I've been unable to see my clients face-to-face. My office remains closed to the public, and the department has ceased our ability to perform home visits with veterans and their families, which was a critical tool in building rapport and trust. Building rapport with clients by phone or virtual call is nearly impossible, and these decisions do not honor the sacrifices of these dedicated heroes and certainly does not foster the trust, care, compassion, or respect that they deserve. During my first month on the job, I was given 45 files, which steadily climbed to 62. When expressing our grave concerns not only for our own mental health, but for the quality of the service to the veteran, management's only reply was that the work would always be there. Within a year, I began experiencing severe burnout and anxiety to the point where I was waking at night with panic and nightmares of my clients dying of suicide because I couldn't keep up. Many times we are not working with a sole veteran, but also their spouse and their children. We are managing families. This is a grave responsibility when you feel as though you are drowning. Life as a case manager is incredibly challenging, but also one of the most rewarding experiences I've had the honor of doing. 25-1 has never been a reality for us, let alone 30-1. And we have been told this is an unrealistic expectation. Being silenced, gaslit, and invalidated by the department has been one of the most demoralizing experiences of my life. But I vehemently refuse to give up advocating for better service for our veterans and our heroes, and that is why I'm here today. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your speech. And now I would like to invite Mrs. Amanda Logan for 5 minutes or less, please. Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, committee members, my name is Amanda Logan, and I'm a local president in New Brunswick. I've been a case manager for almost 5 years. I was taught from a young age that it is important to be able to speak and interact with others, to get to know people, learn about them, understand them. My strength is my ability to connect with others. When I meet with a veteran, I genuinely enjoy getting to know them, taking the time to listen and ask questions. I'm interested and I want to help. When people talk about their passion, I think that this is mine, and this is why I became a case manager. This trusting relationship or working alliance allows veterans to share their traumas, the challenges that they deal with each day, their fears. This trust allows them to feel comfortable to voice what they need. Can you imagine being in that position, being vulnerable in this way? It is not an easy thing to do to share this information with a stranger, and even more challenging during a global pandemic when we are unable to see veterans in person. This relationship is the foundation that a veteran's case plan is built on. Right now, we are under tremendous pressure to meet deadlines for the transition of case management services to the third-party contractor. We are doing this at the same time as we are trying to help veterans and their families. Since June, we have asked questions about the implementation of the new contract, only to be told that this information is forthcoming, a time that has not yet come. There's been no meaningful consultation with case managers. We've been instructed to adhere to the changes and to do it quickly. We have not been properly trained on this new rehabilitation contract. We've only been provided with an informational 52-step process and new acronyms. It is very challenging to know what to share with our veterans to prepare them for these changes when we do not know ourselves. Our worth as case managers is no longer measured by our ability to connect with veterans, assess and develop their case plans with care, compassion, and respect. Our worth today is measured by data, stats, ribbons, complexity levels, and concluded files. We often talk about high caseloads. The promise of managing 25 cases never happens. Let me be clear. This has a direct impact on our ability to meet our mission of providing exemplary client-centered services. Sorry. With upwards of 40 files, our process becomes diluted. We are more susceptible to making mistakes. This has consequences on our health and well-being. Quite frankly, it keeps us up at night. We worry if something has been missed and what kind of impact that could have on our veterans and their families. I often hear from our veterans that they are coming to us now after struggling on their own for so long. In the past, we have had the autonomy to develop that individualized plan. This allows us to put measures in place to ensure that our veterans feel safe, so that they can begin to heal. Case managers work at the veterans' pace, meeting them where they are, bridging the gap between our expectations and where they are coming from. We do this because they have been injured serving our country, and their lives have been completely changed because of it. I'm afraid that in the future this piece will be lost. I'm afraid that veterans will be forced to adhere to rehabilitation plans that are guided by specific and hard timelines, that their rehabilitation plan will be prescribed by a contract that was awarded through a tendering process, not developed by the veteran's physical and mental health needs. I'm afraid that if they are not able to participate in the streamlined process, that they will face cancellation of the program and file closure, a financially and emotionally devastating measure. As case managers, we are worried about how all of this will affect our veterans. I am afraid that this new contract will reduce the role of a group of workers who are an experienced, well-trained group of professionals who want to serve our veterans and their families. We have knowledge, integrity, and commitment to service. We take pride in our role as public servants. We can make effective decisions and are accountable for our work to our employer and, most importantly, to our veterans and their families. Just imagine how well we could do this work if we had the appropriate resources and permanent funding in place. As a final note, I want you to know that I love my job. I'm honored to work with veterans and their families. I'm thankful for the organization and my colleagues. This is why I'm here today, sharing my concerns on behalf of my union and my fellow case managers. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much, Ms. Logan, for your speech. I would like to now invite Ms. Altman, Ms. Angela Altman, for the next 5 minutes. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today in support of my colleagues and my veterans. I've been a case manager just shy of 6 years. Prior to coming to VAC, I was in a case management role with another federal government department. A key factor in my decision to change departments was the opportunity to make a real impact in the lives of our esteemed veterans, as well as their promised commitment of a 25-to-1 caseload. A lower caseload was appealing, as I believed it would allow me to effectively invest my time and resources, and that I could develop strong and trusting alliances with the veterans I serve, something that can make all the difference in whether intervention is successful. Within my first 6 months with VAC, my caseload was up to 48. It's currently sitting at 40. This means that it's harder to be as effective as I'd like to be and to give the time and attention to my veterans that they deserve. As a result, I'm skeptical of their reassurances that the new contract will not mean the loss of case management positions. Case manager retention has been a problem with the department since before my time. At one point in 2018, I was one of 2 case managers in my office for a period of 3 months as case managers left due to burnout. I have continued since this time to see good case managers doubt their skills and abilities, to leave the department noting that this is not what they signed up for, not because of how they interact with veterans, but because of the heavy administrative burden within the role and the prioritization of documentation over quality client contact. Measures put in place to provide support are temporary, and it's hard to balance our commitment to the work and service to our veterans. Term employees know that their position's not guaranteed, and that it can be terminated at really pretty much any time. That's a disservice to all case managers and to our veterans. Coming back to the rehab contract, we did anticipate a new provider for vocational specific services, not the contracting out of the entire rehabilitation program. We were told we could shape what the contract would look like. We were told we would have meaningful consultation in the process. Even as part of the working group, this did not occur. Over the last 18 months, much of our information came from town halls that didn't allow any dialogue. They called it consultation, but it was presentation. This contract has caused a lot of stress. We were pressured to close files, to complete a 6-page document outlining how to best work with the veteran and complete complexity assessments. This meant more time with paperwork and less time with veterans, and I simply did not get the necessary training to effectively navigate this transition for myself or for my veterans. November 1st, we finally got a question period. I was alarmed to learn that while veterans migrating to the new contractor can keep the providers, that new applicants will have to use the contractor providers. Failure to do so means cancellation from the program for non-participation. This is a significant loss in veteran autonomy, which is a key point in reestablishment in civilian life. Providers with extensive veteran experience have voiced concerns about registering with the contractor as it would mean lower pay. My concern is that veterans will not have access to local providers as a result. In light of my experience with veterans, I need to say that my greatest concern is for our veterans and navigating the onboarding process of the new rehabilitation program. We have yet to see the computer system, and I have not been advised as to how to initiate the referral to the contractor in the first place. But more importantly, I implore you to consider the newly released, unwell veteran having to navigate these various systems and having to retell their story while struggling with complex needs and without resources. Gone is our opportunity to stabilize these unwell veterans before referring to a contractor. Under the new process, everything is happening in tandem. The veteran will undergo assessment with us, with Veterans Affairs, and with the rehab service specialist. They'll do a case management plan with VAC and a rehab plan with the contractor. And all of this is prior to connection with providers. It's my experience that when these kinds of veterans encounter this many challenges, they will disengage. The unwell veteran is who we're going to lose and who will fall through the cracks. This is where lives are at stake, and this is what keeps me up at night. Sorry. I'd like to share a story. It's one that all case managers have experienced. A veteran comes to us seeking help via the rehabilitation program. They're focused on their physical conditions. It could be lower back, rotator cuff, for example, and are identifying this as their only concern. I recognize that there's more going on because I'm engaging with this person. I suspect PTSD. The veteran is defensive about their mental health, denies any challenges or impacts, stating that they're just there for that physical condition. Over the next 6 months, I utilize motivational interviewing. I connect with gentle conversations regarding mental health, at the end of which the veteran states, "I don't trust psychologists, but I trust you, so I'm going to do the assessment." And this starts a path of healing that changes everything for that veteran and that veteran's family. And I can do this because I don't have a bottom line to answer to. We all have our success stories, and we carry these with us. As a veteran once remarked to me, "Please don't ever stop doing this. I can tell this is more than a job for you. This is a calling, and veterans need you." I'm a case manager, and despite all the challenges that entails, I've been very proud to be the face of this government and proud to support our veterans. I'm humbled and honored that veterans have allowed me to walk in darkness alongside them. And I strongly believe that veterans who've been injured in service to our country at the direction of our government deserve a government face in their healing and not a for-profit company. To veterans everywhere, one line.
Go ahead.
I promise. Please. To veterans everywhere, thank you for your service. Thank you for trusting us with your experiences, your stories, and your rehabilitation. We continue to carry you with us. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and to all three of you, thank you for your intervention. I can understand the way that you feel. So right now, I'm going to ask members to ask you questions so you can continue with your testimony. And the first one, I would like, this is a round of 6 minutes each, and I would like to invite Mrs. Kathy Wagenthal for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you so much, Chair. And I just want to say to each of you women, thank you. You are the voice of our veterans in this circumstance, and I deeply appreciate your bravery in coming and sharing your hearts today. I would like to ask the three of you briefly. You talk of 40 to 60 files and the promise of 25. The Auditor General's report made it clear that VAC has not lived up to this promise and certainly has not created the environment that needs to be there, which means more case managers like you. And yet the decision has been made to change the whole process, and it deeply concerns me. We have $5.6 million over 5 years, with 25% of that going to profit to a company, like you mentioned. I would like to know your response to the comments that this is being done because of the administrative burden that you face, and so it would be lessened by bringing this about. And yet I would like to know if that administrative burden would be lessened significantly if more case managers like yourselves were hired to the point where you were dealing with 25 cases. If you could each just briefly comment, that would be wonderful. Is that Whitney?
Hi, yes, I'll start.
Yes, go ahead.
Certainly. I mean, just the volume of work definitely impacts that. And also the promise that our administrative burden will be lowered by this contract, I believe, is false. Because in the one Q&A we got back in August, it specifically stated that the contractor is not even able to do letters, which is what they initially sold us on to try and get our buy-in on this contract. So they said, you'll be doing less letter writing in terms of the resources that you're putting in for veterans, but in fact, that's not the case because the contractor does not have the delegated authority of case managers, and that's just one part of the puzzle. So volume, letters, things like that. There's lots of things that the department could be doing to lessen our administrative burden with administrative assistance, but they have chosen not to do that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Amanda or Angela?
Yes, so administrative burden has been an issue for a very long time, and what we were asking for and have been asking for a long time is a reduction of administrative burden. I do believe a 25-to-1 and a streamlining of some processes, particularly elimination of documenting and duplication of documentation and those sorts of things, that at 25-to-1 it would be more manageable. Initially, when I very first started and I was promised a 25-to-1, that didn't happen. Part of the training was that for 2 weeks I had a caseload of 22, and then they jumped it up to 48 within 2-3 weeks. But even during that 2-week period, I feel like I was more effective, more engaged, and more accessible to the veterans. And in fact, one of the veterans complained to my manager following that rapid increase that they noticed that I wasn't as accessible as before. And the direction to me from that was that I
what I made myself too accessible at the outset. Not that
Right.
I was, because I was very, very invested. It
Okay.
wasn't that, oh, the caseload, the number is the problem.
Right.
It was that I was
Okay.
too accessible at the outset. So I do think at 25 to 1, I could definitely be more effective
Okay.
in
Thank you.
case management.
Thank you, Angela. I do appreciate that. Chair, how much time do I have left?
2 more minutes.
Okay. Amanda, maybe I'll get you to respond to this concern that I have. I'm very connected, as many of us are, with service providers, rehabilitation service providers that exist. A lot of them are veterans programs created by veterans that are incredibly effective. And when I see the approach being taken here that gives the impression that not to worry, you'll have plenty of lead time, but we have a situation here where people who've been making a significant difference through you are no longer going to be allowed to do what they are very passionate about. What are your concerns about those individuals or organizations that will no longer be part of serving our veterans?
Well, I think that's one that's one significant point, but it's also the impact that it's going to have on the veteran, right? When
Yes.
if and when the time comes that they have to change a provider, like that's devastating to them. I think that it's not going to have a positive result. And, we have a tremendous amount of registered providers with Medavie Blue Cross at this particular time. I know Whitney can provide some information there too.
Yeah, the promise of 9,000 providers is very small in comparison to the amount of providers that we have access to through the regular Medavie Blue Cross providers right now, many of whom decided not to register for this contract because the pay is lower and it takes them longer to get paid because the payment goes from VAC to the contractor to the provider.
Right. Whitney, do you have a list that you could provide to this committee of the current service providers?
We could likely get that, yes.
I would appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Miss Rogenthal. And now I'd like to invite MP Darrell Sanson for 6 minutes, please.
Thank you for your presentation, and it's evident that it's a very difficult job and that you're doing an excellent job to support our men and women who have served and continue to serve. It's a crucial job, and it's a frontline job, and it's a personal job, and I want to thank you for your presentation. There's no doubt about that, and finding ways to support the job that you do is also crucial for the department to find ways to release some pressure and maybe to deviate from some burdens that you may have that allows you to do more time face-to-face with our veterans. That's crucial. It's my understanding that the new company will support over 14,000 veterans with approximately 9,000 medical professionals right across the country, from remote areas to urban areas. Would you agree that this is the objective of the Veteran Affairs and the company to deliver that service?
Certainly, it's part of our role and our mandate to connect veterans with the resources they require. And I know that, the department and the contractor certainly believe that they can accomplish that. However, 9,000 providers across the country is actually not that big of a number. We continue to support the same number of veterans currently now as is estimated will be providing, like that the contract is going to provide. And certainly my office being on the west coast of Newfoundland with a lot of rural needs present, many of the providers identified thus far throughout the contractor are they're still in city centers, and the rural folks are still going to be struggling. It's going to be ongoing, yes. Thank you.
Based on the information, to be able to support over 9,000 veterans right across the country in rural and urban is impressive in that sense. But would you not agree that most of those services were already in place since 2006 with Veteran Affairs contracted out?
I wouldn't necessarily agree with it in terms of being contracted out. Yes, that services were being provided. The contracted out piece that we've been working under is specifically in relation to the vocational piece, so specifically to employment. The veteran is still able to keep their providers. They're still able to like we would be responsible for connecting them with those providers. So they have providers going into the vocational contracted piece, which is aimed predominantly at employment and retraining.
Thank you. Thank you. I'll just, I'm trying to understand because I'm on the ground as well as all the members of Parliament, and I didn't hear anything from the union concerns the last year. And only now when the contract is actually coming into play. But I didn't hear anything for a year, concerns about that. Do you have any comments around that?
I think last week you would have heard from our president that we have been trying to meet with the minister to discuss this, even prior to its implementation, and he refused to meet with us and put the contract in without consultation.
All right, thank you for that answer. But it was a year, and I know that the minister did meet with over 100 caseworkers not so long ago and announced $43 million in support of caseworkers and service agents and staff. But I guess I want to zero in because I don't have a lot of time. In your opinion, should the rehab, psychologists, psychological services and vocational services be in-house? Do you think we should in-house all this? Do you think we have the capacity? And would it not burden even 10 times more the caseworkers?
I think, I mean, if we did have the ability to do it in-house, I don't think it would be a greater burden on case managers. I'm hesitant to answer this because I'm certainly not an expert on that. But some of the issues in terms of administrative burden that we have include being part of provider relations and connecting with providers and demanding the work to meet the policy objectives, like demanding that their reports and their information meet policy objectives. That would be easier if that was in-house.
Thank you. Has VAC ever provided these services in-house?
In terms of psychological support?
Yeah, the various supports.
No. We have a doctor in-house, but he only does reassessments for physical conditions.
My fear is that without all these supports around the country, we're going to be probably causing enormous pressures on caseworkers and delivering services to veterans and their families. How much time do I have?
30 seconds.
So that's where I'm at. When I listen to what you shared with us, the emotion, it tears me because I know you're out there doing a lot of good work. And our job as parliamentarians, doesn't matter what government, is to make sure that we're there to help veterans and their families, but also the people who support them like you. And we are here to listen and to try to support. This is one strategy. There's many strategies to follow, I'm sure, but this is one important strategy that Veteran Affairs and Government is trying to put in place. And together, if we collaborate, I'm positive that we can find a way where we can help more veterans and help you as well to do your work.
Thank you, Mr. Sanson.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And là, j'aimerais inviter le deuxième.
Now I would like to invite the second Vice Chair of the committee, Mr. Luc Desilets. You have the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last week, we had witnesses at this committee, and Mr. Richard talked about the qualifications of employees and asked questions to Ms. Bennett, the head of the organization, and she was saying that she has 9,000 employees, well, 9,000 people ready to work, rather, for veterans, and she was saying that these are either accredited healthcare professionals or specialists of rehabilitation. So, Ms. McSheffrey, what do you think about that?
I believe it would be good to have social workers if, with the rehab service specialists, they certainly need that type of background, but many of them have been just rehab service specialists. So that isn't necessarily someone who is privy to complex mental health issues or psychosocial issues. And that's what this that's the big difference between this rehab contract and how we were previously contracting it out. It was previously only vocational specific. Now we're adding medical and psychosocial rehabilitation, which is a very different story.
You referred to something. Maybe I'll ask you to come back on to that point, or just to clarify it. We know that there are 9,000 people or employees who will work for the company, and you mentioned Blue Cross, that they already have access to thousands of people, specialists, thousands of people. Are we talking about the same people who are used by this contractor?
No, so a notice did go out to all of those providers to give them a heads up. You know, you can sign up to be a rehab provider for this specific contract. Many did not sign up. 9,000 is not a lot of people in comparison to the larger pool of providers that we had previously had access to. And also our OSI clinics, we have no idea whether they're participating or not. A lot of our OSI clinics, specifically in the Ramukto area, is pretty much non-functioning anyway, which is why I also have concerns about contracting, because that's one that we have contracted out to the province of New Brunswick, and it's not even staffed appropriately.
So right now, what's the number of people they have access to? Because with the new system, we're talking about 9,000. What's the number right now?
I can't give you a specific number right now, but Kathy had asked for specifics, so we'll get back to you on that, but it's much more.
Okay. Do you believe that employees of this consortium have the necessary qualifications to deal with this group of people?
I am frankly unsure because we have no idea who these employees are yet. The contract starts tomorrow, and we don't even know how to refer clients to this program.
One of the reasons brought forward by the department for introducing this new way of doing things is, maybe Ms. Altman, you may want to answer this. So they cite the objective of, of reducing the administrative burden on employees. Is it the case, or is it not the case, do you think?
I'm going to say no, this is not the way to achieve that decrease in administrative burden. When we talked about administrative burden, we were referencing things like unnecessary documentation, duplication of documentation, which continues to be problematic. Those things are still going to remain the same. This is just not, it's not going to achieve, it's not the way, and it's not going to achieve the parameters in terms of reduction of administrative burden that they're saying it's going to.
Will you go as far as saying there will be a redoubling of the efforts or duplication of efforts?
Yes, I mean, I do think it will be a duplication of efforts, and I do, so far, all of these steps to decrease administrative burden have translated to an increase in administrative burden. It's sort of a not funny joke that we have in our office.
Last week, we had Mr. Harris, who was before our committee, and told us that for a case manager, a case manager on average had 30 cases, but you referred to 45 to 62, if I'm not mistaken, and 40 in your case. So what is the annual average? Is there an annual average, or are there peak times throughout the year?
Well, I would say it averages pretty much where we're to, and I'll let them, my colleagues, chime in as well. But we've been closing files, so I'd like you to keep in mind that this, 40 that I'm sitting at is after extensive efforts to conclude files, which I've been directed to. But I think New Brunswick is even higher than where we are.
I feel very strongly about this point. So Our numbers they don't often go up and down. They stay very consistent. So when you have a caseload of 40, for it to decrease significantly, like there has to be a significant change, like a new person maybe coming onto the team, that type of thing. As we know, rehabilitation and service-related injuries do not have a timeline, right? So it makes sense that we case manage for a notable amount of time, and because of that, our numbers go up, and they kind of stay up unless there is a big change, like we bring on more resources, like more people, more case managers.
Thank you.
Merci beaucoup pour vos témoignages.
Thank you very, very much for your testimony and for the work you've been doing.
I'd like to welcome our colleague, Mrs. Lindsay Medicine, who subbed for Rachel Blaney. You have 6 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the witnesses for being here today. It's so evident how much you care for the people that you serve. Thank you so much. Can you talk to me about how you've had to prepare your cases for moving over to this new system and this new contract? Were there additional forms to fill out? You talked a lot about that stress of administrative burden. How has that process been? Maybe Ms. Altman.
Certainly. So there was a lot of case prep ahead of time in terms of the transition over, but the main documentation was, we call it a 1700 form. It's 6 pages, and the content of that they were requesting was specifically things that we have acquired throughout our rapport and relationship with veterans that will help the contractor to better connect and better engage with veterans.
Can that be captured in a form?
I would argue no.
And in terms of this transition, you said that you don't feel prepared at all. You don't feel as though that connection will be existing. Now, it's supposed to happen today, or tomorrow, sorry. But in terms of that transition to the new system, you also mentioned something about you haven't been trained on the new computer system. How many different computer systems do you have to deal with?
We have many computer systems. One came in that was meant to replace a previous one, and the previous one never went away. So, we have probably 3 or 4 now. This will be a new system that will come in, and there's been no training on it whatsoever. The documentation they sent out in terms of their training plan indicated it would occur the end of October, and we are now 1 day before our go-live date, and we have not seen it.
Okay. So in terms of that transition, can you talk about the relationship with the new service provider? How's that happening? How is that going?
Yeah, so we have... We have started to, case managers have started to get calls from the rehab service specialists, which are representing the contract. They're employed by the contractor, to begin facilitating this transition process. And it has, quite frankly, been more confusing. I've had a number of case managers reach out to me because I've gotten a little bit more, since we did presentation about a month ago, people with concerns have been reaching out, and there's been a number of case managers who've been connected. The rehab service specialist has reached out, and they've advised actually that the contract go-live date is being pushed to the 29th, and that's what they've been advised, but we haven't had official documentation or official clarification from our department about that. And then also, additionally, I know a number of case managers that attempted to prepare for the transition by having their veterans undergo assessment to save it having to be done under the new contractor, so that the case manager had more ability to support their veteran through this opportunity, through the stress of that assessment. And the rehab service specialist has indicated that that's insufficient, even though it's current, that they will have to undergo a specialized assessment with the contractor. So now there's more burden.
So confusion on both sides.
Correct,
of
yes.
this relationship. You talked a lot about how much that stress of 40 plus cases will put on, that it puts on you. Certainly it puts on the veterans. And you also mentioned that you've had to close files. Do you feel they've been closed, or that there's a lot of pressure to close those cases for case managers? There's a lot of nods.
Yes, I have been closing files left, right, and center. It's a lot of work on the back end to close a file and conclude that relationship with someone that has shared so much with you. And, you know, when we were able to do home visits, you know their wife, you know their kids, you know their dog, you know what I mean? It's very difficult to end that relationship. Necessary. We do want them to be independent. That is the goal of the program. But you know, with that push, that pressure, some of them are not ready yet, and there is a pressure to close them prior to when they might need to.
Yeah.
If I may add to that, also took a lot of time because essentially how these files were flagged were a report was pulled from one of the main two computer systems that were in that identified files over, say, 4 years. And so you had to take the time to meet with the manager. You had to, yes, you reviewed this file. Yes, you closed where appropriate. But there was a lot of advocating to keep files open, especially when a new condition has been added. So there was a lot of pressure to close the file, even though you would argue, really, yes, they've been on for 4 years. Say they started with a back condition, but you know, maybe 2 years ago they got a mental health condition. So really, technically, the time should start over, in my opinion. But that's not what was happening.
Certainly mental health doesn't abide by those timelines. I get that. And it takes a lot of time sometimes for that, within that trusting relationship, for things to come forward. Have you seen it where you've had to close a case probably prematurely and that veteran has had to come back into the system?
Yes. Yes, I have. Yeah. It does happen. Now, I am a case manager that will advocate to not close it, but there are still some times that you get directed that this file has been here long enough, you're closing it, and then that throws the veteran into crisis, in which case they come back within a month. Yeah.
Thank you, Mrs. Madison. You know, time goes really fast, so we're going to have a round of 1 minute each, but I'd like to tell you that if you have any background information, additional information, do not hesitate to send it to our clerk, and we'll take that in consideration in our report. So now, for 1 minute only, I invite Mr. Blake Richards. Please go ahead.
Thank you, and I appreciate your testimony today. It's evident how much you care, and it's what we're hearing is a lot more questions than we have answers to what's going on here. And so with that in mind, I'm going to move a motion that the committee hold 2 more meetings on the impact of the new rehabilitation contract awarded by the Department of Veterans Affairs on the role of the case manager and quality of service delivery, and hold those meetings on or before December 5th. One in which the committee calls potentially impacted service providers and veterans to appear before the committee for no less than 2 hours, and one in which the committee calls the Minister of Veterans Affairs and Veterans Affairs Canada officials to appear before the committee for no less than 2 hours. The reason I'm moving that, we've heard lots of concerns today about the service providers that are affected and what that will mean for the quality of service for veterans. We're going to hear from one veteran this afternoon, or shortly here, but certainly there is a need to hear about the impact this is going to have on veterans, because what we're hearing, it sounds like it's going to be pretty significant. And obviously there's a lot of unanswered questions, and I think it would be very helpful for this committee to hear from the minister and his officials to answer some of the questions that are arising. We've heard concerns about the fact that you know, there's been no mental health services provided in new situations to veterans over the past month. We're hearing that case managers have no idea what is happening, and it's supposed to start tomorrow. Veterans are confused. There's a lot of questions that need to be answered. We do need more time, and that's why I'm moving this motion, and I hope that all members of this committee will pass it expeditiously right now.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Richards. So, okay, you put it on notice, that motion? No.
Mr. Chair, I moved the motion.
You moved the motion.
I'm moving the
okay.
motion so that we can discuss it right now.
Okay, so please, just 1 minute. The clerk is sending the motion in both official languages to members. So, we're going to have so sorry witnesses. So, stay there. Won't be long.
I do just want to say I apologize that it takes away the last few minutes that we had with you, but I think you can appreciate and I've seen it's very evident in your concern for our veterans that this is going to help to get some answers, hopefully. So I hope that you'll appreciate that and understand.
Yeah, so I have to tell you that in our procedure, so as soon as we have a motion move, we have to discuss that. So sorry for that interruption.
Mr. Chair, if I can, perhaps while
okay,
that's sent around, I just have a couple of
give
more
some
comments.
background about the motions.
Sure, to make. Obviously, it is my sincere hope that that we've all heard a lot of concerning questions here. There's a lot of information that we do not yet have, that case managers do not yet have, that veterans do not yet have, that service providers do not have, and most importantly, veterans and their families don't have. And that's why we need to have this opportunity to get a little more of our questions answered. We haven't heard from the service providers, which are a key aspect of this. We're going to hear next to nothing from veterans. We've got one opportunity with a veteran here shortly, because the government is going to be moving time allocation to try to force through a bill in the House of Commons, that means that veteran's time will be cut short. So we need to have the opportunity for veterans to have their voice in this conversation. And so my sincere hope is that everyone in this committee will understand that that is critical that we do that we can pass this quickly, and that we will enable the veteran who is here to speak with us the opportunity to do that because we'll have passed this motion quickly and we can move on and allow the veteran to have his opportunity to speak with us today.
Yeah. Well, okay. Thank you, Mr. Richard. So it's already the 1 hour of that meeting. We know that we have another witness coming in the next panel, but it's up to the committee to discuss, to debate that motion, and I would like you to think about that. Yeah. So Mr. Desilets first, and after Mr. Sanson. Monsieur Desilets.
Mr. Desilets. Thank you, Chair. Since we started working on this file, I keep having more and more question marks, and I'm trying to understand who's telling the truth in all this. I'm not talking about our witnesses here, but the information coming from the department when it comes to the number of cases for a case manager, because you gave us numbers who are scary, to be honest, and we are questioning the capacities of the company to respond to the needs as you are doing it right now. On the other hand, the department is assuring us. So, I mean, I'm just thinking about the task of drafting a report on this. I don't know how that task will be done because there are bits of information that are contradictory to each other. Thank you. Okay. Dear members, as far as I understand, we want to keep the discussion on the motion and have another meeting given the importance of the issue. So, Mr. Samson and then Ms. Wagenthal.
Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Study that is due very soon with the employment strategy. Which I understand that the national forum is taking place as we speak. On that, the department was here Thursday and gave their feedback. So did the minister. Calling them back, in my opinion, I believe is not necessary. I would be open to maybe having one extra meeting with some veterans. But again, you have to keep in mind that this has been in the works for 1 year. Nothing was said except a week or so ago. I know that there are opinions on both sides, and I respect that sincerely. I also know that there was 6 town halls that were held with various teams, with caseworkers and other delivery staff, with over 800 people in attendance. There has been quite a bit of consultation. I believe that we could support one more meeting with veterans so that we can get more information to provide a report. But this work it's been in the works. It's moving forward, and our objective should be focused on how we can support the work of our caseworkers and this company with over 9,000 support staff and giving access to veterans and their families right across the country, from urban to rural communities. That would be my suggestion. We would be okay with one, but bringing back the department and the minister that just were here last meeting, I believe we need to continue the work that we have planned to deliver as we've set forth. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sanson. And now I have Mrs. Wagenthal. Please open your mic. Oh, she said no. Okay, and Mr. Fraser told me no, not. Okay, sorry. So, Miss Madison, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So it's always interesting to insert yourself into another committee's business, as I've had to do again on this one. But and I'm not entirely sure of your schedule or your calendar as it's set out, but I know that Ms. Blaney is particularly concerned and wants to move forward with the study and the report on the gold digger clause as well that needs to be completed. But I am in support, and we are in support of those two meetings, considering there has been such juxtaposition, I guess, of positions on this for clarification. In terms of the minister coming before this committee, I think that that's acceptable, again, too, because it has been made clear by the workers and by the union that that relationship needs better clarification. But I also know that the minister is invited already to come before this committee for another study on MAID. So perhaps that invitation could be extended to a longer committee meeting with the minister so that you could hear on both subjects. That would be my insert on this. But we are in support of the motion.
Thank you, Ms. Madison. And like Mr. Sanson said, we have the minister this Thursday, and the marriage after 60, it's supposed to be on November 28th, so the week after. Now, Mr. Sean Casey, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I don't want to repeat any of the points that have been made, but I would like to raise a couple of procedural things. It's most unfortunate that Mr. Caputo and Ms. Blaney are not here. I'm glad to see you in the chair, Mr. Chair, and Mr. Desilets here, because you two were party to the discussions that led to the setting of our agenda and the allocation of time to the various topics. You are fully aware of the conversations that happened and the compromises that were made in camera that I'm not allowed to speak about because they were in fact in camera. It's unfortunate that Ms. Blaney and Mr. Caputo weren't here because they were involved in those discussions, made those compromises, and arrived at the calendar that we now have, and gave certain assurances at that time. All of those things are being thrown out the window if this motion is adopted. I think that as members of the subcommittee, we should be able to rely on the good faith of the colleagues on that committee to honor the agreements that were made at that committee and to honor them when they come here. This would breach that. So that's the first thing I have to say is that if this motion passes, I personally feel betrayed. The second thing that I would say, and just the irony of the opening intervention of today's meeting, where the Vice Chair complained about the lack of a heads up over the insertion of 15 minutes of committee business, yet this motion happens without any discussion, any consultation, out of the blue in front of witnesses in a manner that will impair the amount of time we have with a veteran. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Casey. And now, Mr. Darrell Sanson. Excuse me, Mr. Sanson, point of order.
I'll just point out, I certainly agree with the concern Mr. Casey just raised about impairing the time with a veteran. I will point out that at this point, the only speakers on the list are members of the Liberal Party, the government. If they were to just stand aside, let the vote happen, we could have the time with the veteran. And I certainly hope that we'll find that time.
Sorry. You move a motion, and all members have take their time to discuss it. So I'm just trying to do that job. Mr. Sanson, please.
Thank you. I would be open to making amendments that we have one more meeting, but that meeting be 1 hour with the veterans, the department, to clarify some points that may have been brought up today, and the other half of that meeting for veterans. So we would accomplish both in one meeting. So I'm asking to amend this motion that rather than 2 meetings be 1 meeting, and that at that meeting we have the department for 1 hour and veterans for another hour. And I believe we would accomplish our objective over and above, not derail too much the important studies that has been agreed upon by all parties. Thank you.
Sorry, before I go to Mr. Rogers, Mr. Sanson, could you take the motion and read it in order to have your amendment physically, so the analyst and the clerk will be able? Could you read in French or English what is that amendment that you propose to, please?
That the committee hold 1 more meeting instead of 2, 1 instead of 2, on the impact of the new rehabilitation contract awarded by the Department of Veteran Affairs and the role of the caseworkers and the quality of service delivered on or before December 5th. 1 in which the committee calls potential impacted service providers and veterans to appear before the committee no less than 2 hours. I would say 1 hour. 1 in which the committee calls on the department to Veteran Affairs and the ministers officially. Again, I think it should be the department officials to appear before the committee for no less than for 1 hour. So we're changing the 2 hours each to 1 hour, and 1 meeting rather than 2 meetings. It's a simple amendment that I feel would allow us to get to actually receive that motion and accept that motion. It's a workable one. Any more than that, I think we're going to derail our schedule focused and keep us on task.
So just before I go to have Mr. Rogers and after Mr. Desilets, just to say that, to inform you that we don't have any witnesses on our list, the clerk, we don't have, so we have to think with that motions, if pass or not, we have to think of that too. Mr. Rogers.
Mr. Chair, back to Mr. Casey's point about our schedule that we had previously arranged. I just want to point out that we missed 2 meetings recently, were canceled for other reasons, and we lost 2 full meetings we had a schedule that we wanted to get done in terms of the study on marriage after 60 and then the one on employment. And, if we're going to start interjecting and because, a particular topic, we want to add 2 meetings here and 2 meetings there, we're not going to accomplish a whole lot as a committee. So I strongly support what Mr. Sampson is saying. Yeah, 1 meeting, 1 hour for each portion. I'd support that, but not 2.
Thank you. Thank you. So, j'aimerais inviter Monsieur Des.
I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Desilets. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am open to what Mr. Casey has just said. Without going into the details, there is an engagement that is clear. The agenda can shift over the year, and we also had those 2 meetings that got cancelled. There might be others with the prolongation of House sitting hours until midnight. So I'm open to 2 more meetings. But because otherwise I don't really feel comfortable finishing it on this kind of a note. Time goes by and we are keeping people waiting. So I'm not comfortable closing it off while so many unknowns remain. So, I mean, the poor analyst, what will they draft? What will they put in the report? We need time, and we have, again, lost time today. So maybe you might have your comment on this, Mr. Chair, if this is possible. I would keep 2 meetings, but I would open our calendar so that we are true to our words and complete the study. Thank you, Mr. Desilets. Maybe we can do that in camera, but I'd like to remind you that this motion was presented on October 3rd, and we said at least 2 meetings. So I do understand the discussion today. Mr. Richards.
Speaking against the amendment, there's been some concerns raised about changing the agenda that was kind of agreed on as by the previous subcommittee. I think what's important to point out is that we've heard a lot of things in the last couple of meetings that cause great concern. And as you've just said, Mr. Chair, it was stated that there would be at least 2 meetings. We've heard lots of testimony in the last couple of meetings that would indicate a need to continue with this study. And so that is simply what we're seeking to do here. It still allows us to finish the study that we will be with the report that we're working on that we will finish on hopefully next Monday. It still allows us to conclude the final meeting of our study on the MAID issue. And the only thing that then was set on the agenda is several meetings on a new study. So we may as well conclude what we're doing and be able to wrap up and provide reports on the things that we're working on, and then we can still begin a new study. So I don't really think this impedes the business of the committee in any way. It actually, I think, improves it. So I would just encourage everyone to oppose the amendment and support the main motion. And I certainly hope that we can go to votes on both of those now so that we can hear from the veteran who's waiting to hear from us. I certainly hope that we won't have a filibuster from the government here.
Thank you. And I have to tell you that the clerk just got a contact with the witness for the next panel, so he's waiting. And s'il n'y a pas d'autres interventions,
if there are no others who want to take the floor, I would like to put the amendment from Mr. Sampson to vote. So essentially, Mr. Chair, can we have it read into record officially, please, so that everyone is aware of the amendment? Thank you. Okay, I will do the reading.
Our meeting on the impact of the new rehabilitation contract awarded by the Department of Veterans Affairs and the role of the case manager and quality of service delivery on or before December 5th, half in which the committee called potentially impacted service providers and veterans to appear before the committee for 1 hour, half in which the committee calls the Minister of Veterans Affairs and Veterans Affairs Canada officials to appear before the committee for 1 hour. So, je mets donc aux voix.
So we're going to vote the amendment presented by Mr. Sampson. If I can take a moment to speak to my own amendment. The minister will be here with us on Thursday, so we can still ask them questions on this subject. So that saves us from the obligation of having a second meeting, because we would then have others who can participate in this additional meeting that I add in my amendment. Okay, so we're going to vote on Mr. Dale Sampson's amendment. Is there any objection to adopting this amendment? Yes, there's objection, so I will ask the clerk to proceed with the vote of members.
Monsieur Sean Casey.
Vote in favor of the amendment.
Mr. Miao.
Vote in favor of the amendment.
Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
Monsieur Sanson.
En faveur.
Ms. Valdez.
In favor.
Mr. Dowdell.
Opposed.
Mr. Richards.
Opposed.
Mr. Tolmie.
Opposed.
Ms. Wagenthal.
Against?
Monsieur Desilets.
Opposé.
Ms. Matheson.
Opposed.
Pour yes 5, contre nays 6.
Merci. Donc, l'amendement a donc...
Thank you. So the amendment has been defeated. So
On the main motion, please?
Yes.
So we can hear from the veteran?
Yes. Mr. Casey.
If this motion passes, I submit my resignation as a member of the subcommittee on procedure and planning. I can no longer participate in a committee where agreements are not honored.
C'est noté.
okay, it is noted. Thank you, member. So we're going to vote on the motion presented by Mr. Blake Richards. And we'll proceed by roll call. Ms. Clark.
Ici.
Opposed?
Monsieur Miao.
Opposed.
Mr. Rogers.
Opposed.
Monsieur Sanson.
Contre.
Ms. Valdez.
Opposed.
Mr. Dowdell.
In favor.
Mr. Richards.
In favor.
Mr. Tolmie.
In favor.
Ms. Wagenthal.
In support?
Monsieur Desilets.
En faveur.
Ms. Matheson.
In favor.
Pour yes 6, contre nays 5.
Merci. Donc, la...
Thank you. So Mr. Richards' motion is passed. So I will now ask you to submit a list of witnesses as quickly as possible. And please make sure that we can have the witnesses by Friday of this week so that our clerk can spring into action to invite the witnesses and arrange them. Mr. Sampson. Since we don't have a scheduled date for these meetings, I move that the meetings take place in February. Thank you.
D'accord. Je pense...
I think that in the current context, we will have a meeting of the subcommittee to establish the schedule, Mr. Richards.
A little bit confused what I just heard. What was the suggestion for February? For what?
The motion had no date set forth, and therefore
It did, actually. We did. We voted for the meetings to occur before December the 5th.
In the motion?
Correct.
Sorry.
Donc, voilà.
Okay, so I would like to quickly proceed, but first of all, I'd like to thank our witnesses. Thank you for being with us. For your testimony has been very, very important for us, and we will have to suspend. But before that, I would like to again thank the witnesses personally and on behalf of the members, Angela Altman, Miss Angela Altman, case manager and president of Union Locale, and Miss Amanda Logan, case manager and president, local union 60006 Union of Veterans Affairs Employees, and Miss Whitney McSheffrey, case manager, Union of Veterans Affairs Employees. So once again, we thank you, and we hope to see you again. No, we will now suspend for a couple of minutes, and we will welcome our next witness. So we are suspended.
We can now proceed to the second panel of this meeting. A quick reminder to our witness that before speaking, please wait until I recognize you by name. And when you are speaking, your mic should be, when you are not speaking, your mic should be on mute. Members of the committee, I would like to welcome our witness. He's on video conference. It's Master Corporal retired Kelly Carter. Mr., you're going to have 5 minutes for your opening remarks, and after that, members of the committee will ask you questions. So please open your mic and go ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And House of Commons Standing Committee on Veteran Affairs Canada, third-party contracting out of services. My name is Master Corporal retired Kelly Carter, a 30-year veteran of the Canadian Armed Forces Army Logistics Branch. I retired out of Garrison Edmonton in Alberta on 14 August 2013 and have 6 recognized operational and service-related physical injuries, all chronic with varying degrees of mobility issues and pain management I deal with drug-free. I left the military with all my weight-bearing joints suffering from osteoarthritis and was bone-on-bone from what has now been mandated for Veteran Affairs Canada to recognize as cumulative joint trauma. The Land Force Command Physical Fitness Standard, also called the Battle Fitness Test or BFT, and weekly training for the annual test of forced rucksack marches with a 25 kilogram load, I directly blame for approximately 75% of my cumulative joint trauma, now legislated and mandated as recognized pensionable condition by the Veterans Charter and Veteran Affairs Canada. I served on 2 tours of duty in airborne special operations positions and self-identify approximately 15% of my cumulative joint trauma on airborne parachuting and operational missions. I was a professional athlete for the Canadian Armed Forces triathlon and swimming teams, and while the cycling and swimming was lower impact, the running training for the Olympic triathlon distance of running 10 kilometers, I contribute to 10% of my cumulative joint trauma. I would like to bring forth to this committee my dealings with VAC, third-party contractors that Veteran Affairs Canada has farmed out their federal public service duties to. I have had horrible experiences with third-party contractors, including the organization doing business as Canadian Veterans Vocational Rehabilitation Services, or CVVRS. Once in my home in Calgary, Alberta in May 2017, and several times in BC in late 2020. On 9 May 2017, a man who worked for CVVRS entered my home in Calgary and had me answer a series of questions pertaining to my personal life, income, expenses, and physical tests I can best describe as dog tricks. While standing in my living room, he had me conduct a series of physical tests while he sat at my dining room table taking notes. The tests had me pretending to pick up a box, simulating walking up and down stairs, and to go down and crouch like a tiger about to pounce. At one point, he then asked me to go down on my hands and knees and crawl around my floor while he stood up and watched me crawl around. It was at this point my Irish anger came out. I terminated the testing, asked him to leave my home, and escorted him out of my home. I then filed a formal written complaint to my VAC caseworker, Brian Rees, and later initiated a ministerial inquiry to the VAC minister and Calgary Member of Parliament, Kent Herr. My letter has been provided as documentary evidence for translation and public record. My other incidents with CVVRS was in Victoria, BC in fall 2020 on a telephone with a woman by the name of Anika. When I asked her for a list of all the Canadian companies that want to hire veterans like myself to be sent to my email address, she laughed at me, mocked me, and thought it was funny. During an ATIP request, I found evidence of her mocking me on my VAC notes. I was forthright with CVVRS that if they could not provide me with the list I had requested, they were a group of fake, phony baloney frauds who were not there to actually help veterans find a job, but to administer to VAC proof we were applying for 5 to 7 jobs per week not actually helping us find employment. My VAC caseworker based out of Nanaimo, BC, whom I had never met in my life, she was a work from home in pajamas employee, lied to me when she said the CVVRS organization were not the same CVVRS organization I had dealt with in Calgary on 9 May 2017. In 2019, while I was employed with the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, I wanted to pursue a course held twice a year in BC. I completed the Veteran Affairs Canada Education Training Benefit short course forms required, and with a cover letter, asked VAC to contact me for other questions I had. I missed the spring and fall 2019 courses with no response from VAC. We are threatened by the letter of authorization, which has been provided as documentary evidence for translation, that we cannot enroll in these programs until authority has been given by VAC, or we will not be reimbursed. During a 2020-2021 formal investigation I ordered to be conducted by Veteran Affairs Canada, I was told by my caseworker, Ms. Danielle Rowland Dilbert, that VAC does not administer the education training benefit, which is $80,000 for myself.
So
it is handled by a third party.
Sorry to interrupt you. The 5 minutes is over. So, Master Corporal retired Kelly Carter, maybe that during questions you will be able to finish your intervention. So right now I have to go to MPs to ask questions. They're going to have just a round of 6 minutes each, so you can share your time. And I would like to invite Mr. Blake Richard, first Vice President of the committee. Mr. Richards.
Thank you, and thank you, Master Corporal Carter, for not only your testimony today, but for your service to this country. And I want you to know that we are, doing everything we can to make sure that the services provided to you are what you deserve for the service that you've provided to this country. And to that end, we've heard a lot of concerns about this change that's being made.
Mr. Richard, sorry to interrupt you also, but we have vote. Stop your time. You only have 29 seconds. But we have to have a discussion between us because we have 30 minutes to go to vote, and I'd like to have a consensus. So, yeah.
Might I suggest possibly giving each party 2.5 minutes so that we use a little bit of the time and we still have time for everyone to get there for the votes?
So there was a proposition there, 2.5 minutes each group. So, yeah, a total of 10 minutes. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to go for that. 2.5 minutes. So you already have 30 seconds. Please go ahead.
So apologies, Master Corporal Carter. The government has moved a time allocation, which means they're trying to close off debate on a bill in the House of Commons, and so there's a vote that's been requested, and unfortunately that'll cut your time a little short. But I do appreciate you being here, and I want to make sure we maximize the time we have with you. I guess the first question I would have, we've heard a lot of concerns about this changeover on this contract. Do you feel that veterans have been properly consulted in this change?
We have not been consulted at all on this change, other than this opportunity for me to speak today, because I've been a veterans advocate and watching what was going on, and I was glad that I was invited today.
Thank you. And that's obviously appalling to hear that veterans have not been consulted. I mean, when you're talking about a change that's going to have significant impact. I'm just going to actually ask you as well, last meeting, I don't know if you have been following along, but we heard something that I was quite shocked and appalled by, which is that over the last month, in the lead up to the changeover tomorrow, case managers at VAC have been told not to initiate any new medical or psychosocial services for veterans during this transition period. Does that concern you, and what kind of an impact do you think that's going to have on veterans, particularly those who've come with mental health challenges?
Mr. Chair and Mr. Member of Parliament Blake Edwards, I am starting to see the same writing on the wall as we saw as public servants when Phoenix was rolled out without a proper test trial with one department in the federal public service to try it out. I am very deeply concerned that this has not been discussed, rolled out, or implemented properly. And when the switch turns to on, it may become an utter failure, just like the Phoenix payroll system was on day one when it was first turned on.
Thank you again, and thank you again for your service to this country.
Thank you, Member of Parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Richards. And who's going to miss Mrs. Valdez for 2 minutes and a half? Please go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Master Corporate Carter, thank you so much for joining us today and for the many years of service that you've provided to this country.
Thank you.
In this committee, past witnesses have requested for VAC to provide an experience to them that will be inclusive to meet each of the unique needs of veterans. This new contract proposes to customize services for each veteran, and then also then consult with veterans as well in your overall service and in the plan that they're intending to have with you. I just wanted your thoughts on that.
I've had dealings with the organization that I've heard is going to be taking over. They've had extensive experience with veterans in dealing with physical aspects of their injuries. Anything outside of that context, I cannot comment on. They do have a very comprehensive third-party billing system in place. However, anything outside of physical, I have no comments. I have no knowledge of how this is going to be rolled out.
And part of the changes would enable veterans like yourself to provide feedback easily on a regular basis. Just wanted your input on that as well.
I do not feel that the Veteran Affairs Canada current system, including the ombudsperson system, is reacting to and listening to veterans. I personally have spoken with ombudsperson staff about issues and concerns. They are more inclined to want to close the file than to actually action the file so they can close the file and move on. And I've yet to speak with any of the ombudspersons in person regarding any of these issues or concerns.
Thank you. I think I'm out of
30 seconds.
I just wanted your input overall. I mean, you've touched on how these changes will impact you. Is there anything else you wanted to share, since I can't really ask a more thorough question with you right now?
Yeah. I think Member of Parliament Blake Edwards is right on track when he says that he is concerned, as well as many people. This may be like the Phoenix payroll system, where it's being turned on day one, which I heard on this meeting today was tomorrow, 22 November, and it is not ready to handle the numbers I've seen, which is approximately 500,000 living veterans in Canada.
Thank you, Mrs. Valdez. And maintenant, je voudrais inviter Monsieur.
Now I would like to invite Mr. Luc Desilets for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you, Chair. My question will be very simple. How are you so certain that the system will not function? I understand that you had a bad experience, but what are you basing yourself on when you say that?
Was there going to be a translation coming across?
Master Corporal retired Kelly Carter, at the bottom of your screen, could you please choose translation from French to English?
I see raise hand participants interpretation icon.
You click on that.
Interpretation?
Right. And you choose English.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to ask the MP to repeat his question, and you will be able to answer. Please, Mr. Desilets.
Thank you. Okay, here we go again. Master Corporal, can you tell me the following? I mean, I understand you had a bad experience, but you seem convinced that it will not function with this company. Can you tell me what are you basing yourself on when you're saying this with such certainty?
Mr. Chair and Member of Parliament Luc Desilets, I didn't get to finish my introduction. However, as a 30-year veteran who processed education training benefit claims for soldiers serving in the Canadian Armed Forces, I had no understanding or reason or knowledge that the education training benefit was being farmed out to a third-party contractor. I had asked my caseworker who was handling this. They had refused to tell me. I never received approval from them. I had no contact from them, nothing. This is a third-party contractor, the Veteran Affairs Canada, apparently farmed out my $80,000 education training benefit to administer for me. And my experience with these third-party contractors is not a healthy one. It has not been a positive experience.
On a entendu de la part du...
We heard from the department that there will be about 100 case managers who provided feedback to assess the situation when it comes to changing the system. But it sounded to me that you were saying that no one was consulted and no one was involved in this process. Do you really feel that that was the case?
Absolutely. I do not feel that veterans were contacted, reached out. I currently have a second level in process contesting services I had with Canadian Veterans Vocational Rehabilitation Services, and they have somewhere of 180 days to respond to these levels of complaints that we have. So I still have one that's in the queue right now from services I received from third-party contractors. So yeah, no, it's not. We're not being consulted, and no, it's an unhealthy relationship I've seen.
15 seconds. Okay.
Allez-y, c'est correct.
Merci, Monsieur.
Thank you, Mr. Desilets. And I would like to invite Mr. Lindsay Matheson for the next 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you so much, Master Corporal Carter, for your service, for your time here with us today. Just quickly, you had said that your relationship with the third-party service provider was horrible, but could you talk to us about how important that relationship is with your case manager, that they have the time to provide that one-on-one relationship building, that trust building with the veterans that they serve?
I've had 4 caseworkers, 3 in Calgary, and 1 in Vancouver Island. I had a very close connection with 1 out of the 4 caseworkers who I connected with, melded with, had coffee with several times, and had a healthy relationship. And that was because that caseworker took the time to spend time with me and learn who I was.
So that time is really, really key, that they have the ability to connect with that veteran so that they can truly understand what's necessary. I appreciate that. And I know I have very little time, and so unfortunately with the rest of my time, I would like to move the motion that my colleague on Thursday had provided to this committee, that Veterans Affairs Canada provide to the committee a copy of the contract for rehabilitation services between VAC and partners in Canadian Veterans Rehabilitation Services by November 25th, 2022. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much. We already have a copy of that. Yeah. Okay, so we have a motion on the table, and you already have a copy of that, but we're going to send it to you again, and so we'll be able to discuss it. So please, Mr. Corporal Retired Kelly Carter, stay with us a few minutes. Just a few seconds. So, Ms. Matheson, can you speak about this motion, please, at the time?
Well, and I know that this is a pretty straightforward. It's just to have that documentation provided to the committee officially for that contract, so that we have a better context moving forward. As now we have 2 more meetings to discuss this specific contract, and it was discussed at the previous meeting. So I would just move. I think it's pretty simple.
Thank you so much. Mr. Casey?
Mr. Chair, given the time constraints and the concerns over proprietary information, this requires a longer conversation than the 1.5 minutes we have left. I move to adjourn debate on this motion.
Oh, OK. Voilà, donc...
Okay. So I have an adjournment motion before us. We will have to vote on it. Is there any objection to adopting this adjournment motion? No objection? Okay.
Corporal retired Kelly Carter. I know that it was a short appearance with us, but however, it was really important to have your testimony. And you know that we're going to have more meetings on that study, maybe that the members of the committee will invite you, and it will depend on you. So I'd like, on the behalf of the member of the committee and myself, to say thank you for your 30 years of service. And j'espère que la santé, votre santé aussi.
And I hope that you will be in better health. So on that, the meeting is adjourned.